Soon may the wellerman come, bring us coffee, tea, and rum. One day the tonguing is done, take our leave and go. At a fair in the sun of town, her hair was blonde and her dress was brown. Soon may the wellerman come around.
As evening set in over North Pelican Island, the first day of my island tour was nearing its conclusion. It had been a memorable day sailing the Cumberland River in my home-built wooden skiff. First I explored Honker Shoal, a small dry sandbar along the natural Cumberland riverbed. I set sail downwind from Honker Shoal, bound for North Pelican Island. Despite blowing out the mizzen snodder and crashing into a submerged stump, I finally reached North Pelican Island, where I spent the afternoon exploring on foot. After rigging a new snodder for the mizzen, it was time to bid farewell to North Pelican, hopping over to the sad island where I would camp ashore, just a short reach to the west. The seasonal low water level makes getting ashore tedious work, but it also allows me to set up camp on the dry flats between the two wooded hills of the island. During the summer months, these flats are inundated under a couple feet of water, but during fall and winter, the open level ground here makes an ideal campsite. I pitch my small backpacking tent just in the lee of the terrain and woods at the north end of the island, hoping to get some shelter from the wind overnight. Well, the sun is going down over Sad Island here, Got to visit a couple of islands, really one shoal and one island. I planned on doing 3 today, but there was just no way. I kind of underestimated the amount of time and effort that would go into just those 2 islands. Of course, camping always complicates things. I try to set it up so that my camping allows me to do and see more, and it does to an extent, but at the same time it also creates a lot more work. With lows in the low 50s, it was a cool night, but not cold, and not as cold as predicted. Some wind carried on through the night, but my little camp was protected by rising terrain, and I kept a fire going near the tent for extra warmth. The moon was just a faint sliver and only showed itself for a few hours before dropping out of sight behind the blackened woods across the creek to the west. But it was a clear night, and the reflection of stars on the water created a surprising amount of illumination. I drifted off to sleep to the sound of bickering pelicans out on nearby Big Pelican Island near the Cumberland River channel, and that would be tomorrow's first destination. With the two most critical morning camp chores complete, which are making coffee and drinking coffee, I started breaking down camp and packing up my gear. As I made the first trip down to where the skiff was beached with dry bags in hand, I looked up, noticing something out on the far point of the island, and had an unexpected realization. Turns out I am not alone on this island. I just happened to glance up at the point and I saw two figures standing there. And at first I thought they were maybe standing up in a boat fishing, but then they walked away. So that's a little unexpected. And it was kind of weird because it looked to me like they were wearing the same clothes and they walked with a perfect synchronized gait. I haven't heard any boat motors today, and I would have seen anyone approaching in a canoe or kayak from the campground back here, or there's a couple sort of backcountry boondocking type campsites over on the other fork of the creek. So either they've paddled up the creek channel from a good ways away, because it's all pretty remote out here, or they were here all night with me and I didn't know it. The crest of the island is densely wooded, brushy, and chigger and tick ridden. I get into some pretty rough places, and even I don't want anything to do with the woods on this island. So if anyone is here, I'm expecting them to be somewhere along the banks. Just about to come around the corner and no sign of any people yet. But I expect to see something, either someone paddling away or there's got to be people just right around the corner here. I'm just a little bit anxious as I near the final corner. If someone is here, this is the only place remaining where they could be, and I am expecting to find someone because otherwise I saw a pair of specters. It is a little unusual to encounter other people on these islands, especially without hearing a motor all night and all morning. As I rounded the final corner, what I saw was definitely unusual. Nothing out of the ordinary. It's just a couple of pre-1830 fur trappers. Just normal stuff out here. That is really cool. I happened to catch those guys just as they were shoving off, and they said they're on day 3 of 5 on their trip, and they had all what seems to me like period correct gear. Even they said they even had flintlocks. So that is cool. They're coming from the south, going north. So they're going downriver, but they didn't count on the north wind overpowering the current. So they're not having the easiest time paddling, especially yesterday, I imagine. Yesterday must have been not a lot of fun for them. They were older too. You never know what you're gonna find out here on the wild Cumberland River. Sometimes you're convinced you saw a pair of ghosts out on a point, but it turns out just to be a pair of buckskin-clad 18th century explorers. Nothing really surprises me at this point. It's the second and final day of this overnight island tour, but the tour is far from over. My skiff and I still have 2 exciting island explorations and a full day of sailing ahead of us. On the next episode of River Islands, we reach across the flats to the east for Big Pelican Island, the largest and probably the most interesting island featured in this series. But first, I have to get off the bank and out of the mud with the rudder buried. Pennants are now available at cumberlandrover.com. Historically flown for signal purposes, a pennant is that indescribable something that your boat is missing. They can help you read the wind, increase visibility of your small craft, and they just look cool, fluttering from the masthead or yard of a lug sail. You can have any color you want, as long as it's bright red. I have 2 styles of pennant now available at cumberlandrover.com.